What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets, Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician, Dane Martinez, and training camp is upon us. I am very excited, as I know so many of you who write in the comments and stuff of Jets Latest are, because the 2025 green and white season is really getting going right now. So remember, this is the place to be. I will be giving you all sorts of insights, quotes, stats, and stuff to back it up. But today, where I want to start is some of the position battles that are going to be important to watch here as we go through training camp, okay? And the first one is going to be the second wide receiver opposite Garrett Wilson. We have talked about this a lot, and people have been saying you got to sign Keenan Allen or Amari Cooper or address it in the draft high up, and they didn't do that, okay? I'm not worried because, first of all, I think this is going to be a run-heavy team, right? We talked about the offensive line with Breece Hall and Braylon Allen and, of course, Justin Fields. And I think about other run-heavy teams with dual-threat quarterbacks, like the Buffalo Bills, for example. Like, who's their number two wide receiver? Not someone that kind of, rings bells as terms of their skill set. Who's the number two wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens? Not someone that, everyone's like, oh my God, we got to be afraid of them. But still, I think there are a number of candidates and how the Jets are going to approach the wide receiver two position. Let's get into it. First of all, I think Josh Reynolds is going to be the quote-unquote wide receiver two. And so does Rich Cimini, who's a beat reporter here in New York for the Jets, right? Josh Reynolds is the clear-cut favorite for the number two wide receiver job. Remember, he has experience in Detroit with Tanner Engstrand, right? So knows this system, is a veteran wide receiver, and is a relatively sure-handed wide receiver. Only 5 drops in the last 147 targets, right? A good passer rating when being targeted. Kind of that clutch, kind of third down, kind of move the chains wide receiver. And, above 50% on a contested catch rate. You hear about the 50-50 balls. Well, with Josh Reynolds, it's better than 50%. But the other part of this is we have a lot of other pieces that can be leveraged and used in different ways. First of all, Mason Taylor, Breece Hall are both going to be, I think, good at the tight end and running back position to augment the passing game, right? Arian Smith, the rookie out of Georgia, is going to be able to stretch the field, right? We got Malachi Corley. We talk about him as that yak king to be used on things like screens, slants, short yardage stuff, bubble end arounds, pop passes, things of that nature. Don't forget about Tyler Johnson, who was signed, who I think could be a sneaky, all-around good wide receiver 3 type. And Alan Lazard, we talk about no block, no rock, right? We know he has proven in the red zone can be a good blocking wide receiver. So I think if you think about it in that way, we will ultimately be okay. Ultimately, I think Josh Reynolds is going to be the number 2 wide receiver, but definitely something to watch in camp. I would be watching specifically the kids. Malachi Corley, does he hang on to his roster spot? And Arian Smith, because the speed is something you can't teach. So if he looks like he's making catches, doesn't struggle with that drop issue that we know about in college, then he can kind of ascend as well and be used even more and more. Another position to keep an eye on, we talk about the run defense. Everybody knows about Quinnen Williams, one of the best interior defensive linemen in the entire NFL. I think he was ranked the 5th best, right, in PFF grades and all that stuff. The stats suggest that. But the question has been, who's going to be that D lineman next to Quinnen Williams? And the Jets brought in a couple of guys in free agency that you gotta have an eye on, okay? The first, in my opinion, is Derek Nottie from the Kansas City Chiefs. He signed a 1-year, $1.4-ish million deal. He's a 315, 320-pound dude. He is a pure run stuffer. A few years ago, he was literally 8th in PFF rating in terms of stopping the run, right? So that is his calling card. That is his skill set, to be a pure nose, to be a pure run stuffer on short yardage situations, on run downs, that sort of stuff. And he's got a reputation for being able to recognize the play, read his keys the right way, and really plug the run. The other guy you need to know about is Byron Cowart. He was with the Chicago Bears, okay? We signed him, similar deal, a similar 1-year deal, like about $1.3, $1.4 million, right? You see kind of his stats there in terms of the sacks, the tackles. Not going to jump off the kind of page for you, right? Was slightly above average in the PFF grades. Out of 219 qualified guys was, 86th or 74th, so in the top half, right? But when we were at minicamp and OTAs, there was a lot of buzz that he was getting pressure on the quarterback, that he was making some kind of plays. So I think that's going to be an interesting battle to watch. Ultimately, the way I think it'll go, we'll have to watch this, is that Nadi will be the guy on obvious running situations, short yardage situations, and Coward may be the guy. I know Leonard Taylor is also out there, a guy who has been on the roster and flashed a little bit that I know Jets fans are excited. We'll see if he could take a leap as well. But the guy next to Quinnen Williams, when you hear the names of Nadi, when you hear Coward, you want to see how they are progressing and if they are doing well, or if maybe Nadi is a specific run down specific kind of guy. The other thing I'll say is, and we've talked about this a lot on Jets Latest, is that we're going to finally hopefully have Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald healthy. They're going to bring pressure from the edges. We're going to have linebackers blitzing also, and we have a good linebacking duo in Sherwood and Quincy Williams, right? And we're going to be playing man coverage. So with all of those other strengths in the secondary, linebackers, edge rushers, I don't want to undercount it, but if that's the weak link of our defense, the D tackle next to Q, it's not like that got to have studs and stars all over the place. You don't need Pro Bowlers everywhere. So if these guys, Nadi and Coward, maybe Taylor, can kind of combine to be above average or serviceable, I think we'll be just fine. And I think that's important to note as well. The other positions that I think we really need to talk about here is we've had an overhaul in our kicking game, right? Both, remember, the punters are both new and different. Thomas Morstead was released, so Kai Kroger is a free agent out of South Carolina. He had, 70-plus yard punt. He also, which is interesting, he fake punted a ton at South Carolina. Completed 7 of 10 passes for 3 touchdowns. So that's an interesting kind of weapon if Banjo, the special teams coordinator, wants to use him. And the other guy is Austin McNamara, okay? So keep an eye out on those two guys. McNamara was all-conference all 4 years at Texas Tech, was an all-American punter when he was a freshman, good average, and he's had some booming ones as well. And then in the kicking game, again, Greg Zuerlein is gone. We made that kind of move in the offseason, and this speaks to, again, youth, competition, bringing in guys that can grow and develop together, but we're doing it in the kicking game as well, where there's 2 options. The first is Caden Davis. He's out of Ole Miss. He was a semifinalist for the Groza Award last year, which is the best kicker in college football. You see there, his first team all-conference, was an All-American as well, okay? Made a bunch of his field goals, over 96% of his field goals, even has some distance, hit a 57-yarder at one point. And the other guy, I remind you, I said it on Jets Latest when we signed him, he's known as the thicker kicker, and his name is Harrison Mevis. He also was at Missouri, over 80% of his field goals, hit a 61-yard field goal as time expired. So that clutch long distance, both of these guys have the leg. And then Mevis, he was in the UFL. Okay, he was with the Birmingham Stallions, and he made 20 of 21 field goals. Okay, he was perfect from inside the 50, so he has experience at the pro level at the UFL as well. So those are some of the positions I think you got to think about. Okay, wide receiver 2. I think it's going to be Josh Reynolds. Listen for the kids and see how we leverage them, different skill sets and different roles, different packages, depending on the situation. Next to Quinnen Williams, you're going to hear about Coward. You're going to hear about Nadi. You may hear about Taylor as well, right? We'll see if any of them are kind of ascending to be that standout every down starter next to Quinnen Williams. And then I think you need to you need to keep an eye on the kicking game, right? We'll see what we do at kicker. We see what we do at punter. I would also mention emergency backup third string quarterback is going to be interesting. We know it's Justin Fields. We know it's Tyrod Taylor. And then there's going to be a battle between Adrian Martinez and Brady Cook, also out of Missouri, right? And we've talked about this. Adrian Martinez, he also was in the UFL with the Birmingham Stallions. He was like the MVP of the UFL. Had some time in preseason with the Jets previously. Can also be that dual threat as a rushing quarterback, which I think is important. And then Brady Cook was an undrafted free agent out of Missouri who also has that athletic kind of skill set. So what I think is important there is the idea that both of those guys can kind of run the same playbook as Justin Fields. They both have some of that rushing ability, that dual threat ability. So that's another one, but I don't think it's a starting position for us to worry about. So we're excited. Training camp is underway, and keep an eye on those position battles to watch. I want to also, as usual, thank you. The channel has been growing. I appreciate the likes, the comments, and all that stuff. And I want to share some of the comments with you. Serve25 says Mason Taylor is going to be a beast. I think it's important, like we said, that he signed his second round deal and will be in camp. Ivan Wilson, 5941, says Justin will be in the MVP conversation, talking about Justin Fields. Now, I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of my skis here. I try to be optimistic, but realistic with the Jets. I think he's going to have a really good season. Okay. If he's eligible for comeback player of the year, that could be interesting. I told you another award that could be interesting is Aaron Glenn as coach of the year. Although I don't necessarily think Fields is going to be in the MVP conversation, but if we win the 12, 13 games, maybe he will. I think the Jets will be like more on the fringe of the playoff race at 8 or 9 wins, and we just want to keep moving in the right direction, right? And then listen, every now and then I get a ton of trolls, and check this out. This is the level of stuff I got to deal with. Evelyn Lopez 669 says, "Where'd you go to school, Long Island? My geography is poor for as smart as I am about football. My geography needs help. East Rutherford is in New Jersey. They're the New Jersey Jets." Telling me what I still call the Raiders, Los Angeles or Oakland, right? Come on now. So listen, yeah, I know they play in New Jersey. They're the New York Jets. They have been for decades. They still will. We know they play in New Jersey. So do the Giants, right? The only actual technically based in New York State team is the Buffalo Bills. And then old Dave 1000 says, "I'm looking forward to the season. Keep up the good work." I'm glad that most of the comments are saying to keep up the good work. Appreciate what we're doing here on Jets Latest. But remember, watch these videos, like these videos, subscribe to the channel, tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend. And if you want to hear more from me, the spitting statistician Dane Martinez, I'm on SiriusXM channel 87 as the host of the FTN Fantasy Show. All right, fantasy football season getting going, and FTN has so many great things: articles, content, rankings, tools, simulations to help you be a better fantasy player in all sports and a better sports better. I'm also on Sports Grid TV hosting a show called In Game Live, where at night we go around the entire sports landscape, all the games that are in play, and looking for opportunities to live bet, which is now all the rage in the sports gambling kind of area, live betting. And we find ways, if we see something, we say something to try and get you that cash. But remember, if you're locked into the JETS, Jets, and training camp, I will be here. Jets Latest is the place to get everything you need to know as we get into the 2025 season. It's going to be a fun one. I'm going to be here. Make sure to subscribe and check us out every single day, and tell a friend to tell a friend. We'll be back tomorrow, but for now, we out of here. Peace.